and where the water's going.
Okay.
Give us a
Yeah, so my name is Jeff Gordon. I'm a watershed resources supervisor with the city of LA. Bill Dean is also one in our group. We are about 20 strong of various resources people, range management, soil scientists, ornithologists. We help manage the actually quite a bit over 300,000 acres that the city of Los Angeles has. So welcome to the Oak Valley. I don't know how much they know on kind of the...
Not much.
Okay, all right, so all the mountains you see over there, that's the Sierra Nevada Mountains, the Snowy Mountains. This is where all the LA's water source, you can see up there, that we've got a ton of starts. This is a really interesting place, and it is a land of extremes. A lot of people come here, and particularly in the middle of summer, it's hot, dry. Why would LA come up here to get water? Well, it's the Sierra Nevada Mountains. Precip down here in the valley can only be a few inches. We can get 20, 30 feet of snow up in the Sierra Nevada. We're in a Mediterranean climate. That's why LA came up here to get water, because water is pretty scarce in this Mediterranean climate. And it only gets the big thing that's different about the Mediterranean climate than when I was growing up. I grew up here, you don't appreciate it. Most of the world gets their water during the growing season, during the warm season, whereas Mediterranean climates get it during the winter. And so we rely, those mountains are precious for other reasons, and that's our reservoir for water. So it's stored up there as snow. So another big part of why LA is here, and it's a great reason why we saw on this map, is 75% of the people in California live down in Southern California, whereas 75% of the water in the state falls out here. So LA was one of the first entities that really did a big, large irrigation transfer with the LA Aqueduct. So I can move in a little bit of the LA Aqueduct kind of history so you guys get pieces of that together. LA, well, even before LA came up here, this was colonized, and it was an agricultural area. Owens River was a great source of water for agriculture at the time. In the late 1800s, there were miles and miles of canals that diverted Owens River water to irrigate various parts of the valley. In late 1800s, LA started buying up property. We took a lot of these big canals out of service, and that water was eventually put into the LA Aqueduct, and was completed in 1913. So if we have time, we might be able to visit the LA Aqueduct intake. It's about 60 miles north. And that virtually dried up the Owens River, right? So we're gonna see a little bit of the project to rewater that, and then also the other part of LA's water gathering activities was the dust falling on Owens Lake. Before I go there, other parts of the story that I guess you'll get later on tomorrow are up in Mono Basin. In late 1930s, 1940s, LA opened the Mono Basin extension and built Crowley Lake Reservoir. So you'll drive by each part of that and see that tomorrow. Then the next part of the story that started, kind of the reason why Bill and I have jobs, is with CEQA and sort of the understanding of environmental responsibility. So in 1969-ish is when we completed what we call the second barrel of the LA Aqueduct. That starts down just south of here. So there's a second barrel that also provides water to LA. And that, when we started that, there was a new law called CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. And so that was a time where you needed to evaluate environmental impacts from operations. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that's meant to the department. I guess overall, apart from seeing all the infrastructure here, I want you guys to think about since you guys are going to be leaders in water resources management, think about how we meet goals of providing water for domestic use and other uses, but also thinking about environmental sustainability. So early on, LA export, the water rights are based on sort of the most beneficial use. We've not changed the law, we've changed our interpretation of what a beneficial use is. It's not just for people, it's for wildlife, it's for public trust values. So that's kind of the new thing that we've incorporated into how water rights are allocated. And that has meant that what LA has exported, somewhere around 300,000 acre feet on average every year, has dropped in half since that time. And a lot of it's gone to two multi-million-dollar projects that we're going to visit, the Owens River Project and Owens Lake. So before I hand it over to these guys, we're going to talk about how we meet those goals, how we best provide for environmental sustainability, but also provide for water resources for any city, but even the city of LA. And so we'll hit a lot of threads, but we're going to come back to the idea of how we do that. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned here. And one thing I want you to kind of think about as we go through this is there's many ways to come together, and we'll talk a little bit about probably the best way we found moving forward, and it's through collaboration. So we'll catch on that more. I'll hand over to these guys if they want to talk more.
I just wanted to add just a few things on top of what you said, Jeff. And mainly, well, we're gathered around this map here for a reason. Because you really just look at this really cool relief map that's been made here, a 3D relief map, so you can see how tall the mountains are, and vertical relief of which way the Owens Valley and the Owens River flows to the south into Owens Lake, which Owens Lake is a terminal lake. So that means that there are no outlets out of Owens Lake. And historically, that was the end of the Owens River. Well, the LA Aqueduct contours along the base of Sierras to continue the water south, artificially man-made. So you can really get a sense of that vertical relief with this cool map here. And then the LA Aqueduct, which is marked on the map, it's the blue line that parallels the Highway 395 and 14 all the way down through the basins and all the way into Los Angeles. So it's a pretty interesting and engineering feat, especially when it was done in the early 1900s, to be able to pipe that water all the way over 200 miles to the south, all gravity fed. The only pump that's on the system we're going to go visit, it's called the pump back station. So everything else is gravity fed all the way from the tall Sierras all the way down. So this is a really cool map, and it does show the extremes not only of between the Sierra Nevada and the Owens Valley, but also you see here Death Valley National Park just to our east, which is the lowest point in the lower United or the continental United States, negative 282 feet there in Badwater. The juxtaposition between that and the Sierras, the tallest point in Mount Whitney, which is right out this window here. We got it at 14,000 feet. So really cool map source here. And then I think later on we'll probably get more into Owens Lake, which is a unique, and like Jeff mentioned, a multi-million-dollar project, dust control project. So we're really going to get into that. We're going to go on Owens Lake and go over the various types of dust control and how we balance the goals of the dust control with the goals of wildlife habitat management. So very challenging sometimes to balance those two things, but we'll work a collaborative process to achieve those goals. So that's basically all I wanted to add.
I'm Mike Draper. I'm kind of the local environmental activist, citizen person. Because a big part of our work together is there are different parties that have different interests. Wherever we can, we try to agree on what we agree on, except to find what we agree on. But there are just simply times when there are disagreements. So very quickly when Los Angeles built their second aqueduct, the first one was supposed to be all the water the city of Los Angeles would ever need in 1913. By the 1920s, the city was back in the valley buying up the northern half of the valley because the water they had wasn't enough. So that was in the 1920s. In the 1960s, Los Angeles was looking for more water, and they saw ways they could get it up in the north. At that time, I think the water for Los Angeles, about 2/3 of it, I think Jeff said, was about 2/3 of it was coming from this aqueduct here, Los Angeles Aqueduct. Currently today, Los Angeles also gets a lot of water from the Central Valley Project, the city project, Delta and all, and I think some from Colorado. But to fill their second aqueduct, which was, I think, finished in 1970, this is one that hardly anybody knows about. People know about the Chinatown movie and some of the history of the Owens Valley and the water wars and all. But the second aqueduct is pretty under the radar for a lot of people. But, just to kind of put it, my quickest take on it is that those of us who work on water and land, we kind of accept the first aqueduct as a done deal. You know, the city owns the entire Owens Valley. And even up in here to Crowley, over 1/3 of a million acres. They have permission to use the water from the state of California. And I personally accept that. But the second aqueduct was something that triggered kind of a modern water war that you don't see movies made about much. And it's, I think, the most important part of history because I think you can learn a lot about that as students and as you go into your careers in the future to have that California knowledge. Okay? What was going to fill the second aqueduct was to take more water from the Mono Basin through an 11-mile tunnel under the volcanoes, the Mono craters up here, and dump the water into the Owens River, and then take that down south. So they were going to increase the take of water from up here. In 1940, they built a tunnel under here. The other part of the water they were going to get was they discontinued irrigation on 8,000 acres of irrigated land in the Owens Valley. That water was taken and put in the aqueduct. The third amount of water that was going to go into the second aqueduct was a very large groundwater pumping plan and program. Most of the aqueduct water that goes south is snow, maybe 80%. And for a long time, water was not really pumped to any real significant degree. But in 1971, pumps came on in 8 or 9 well fields and that pumped a lot of water. They pumped enough that there were damages to the valley. A couple of our large springs went extinct. There were some wetlands here and there, spotty around the valley, and began to diminish. And this county, Inyo County, sued the city of Los Angeles using this new law called CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, which a lot of people really didn't know too much about. But nowadays, our county is kind of conservative. It really doesn't really like that. It saved the place like years ago. So they sued Los Angeles over the impacts of that second aqueduct. There wasn't an environmental study done of the potential impacts and how they could be avoided or what kind of alternatives might take place. And that battle went on. That's the battle that I participated in, starting in the early 80s, 10 years after the lawsuit. And that eventually ended in 1991, after the lawsuit was filed in 1972. It's almost 20 years later, with an agreement between Inyo and Los Angeles to settle that. Okay, there was an acceptance by Los Angeles that impacts had occurred and something needed to be done. There was an acceptance by Inyo County up here that Los Angeles is a huge city and it needs water for schools and businesses, hospitals. That has to be balanced. And so coming together in a settlement created the Inyo Los Angeles Water Agreement in 1991. And that's what kind of regulates a lot of the water operations up here in the Owens Valley. It only applies to Inyo County. It doesn't apply to Mono County up here. You'll hear some more about that as you go north. I won't get into that point now. tell you up there. But I think the main thing to learn is that when I was a young activist, a student, and then a school teacher, not as experienced, kind of wet behind the ears. My passion was always out in front of my logic, okay, my brain. And because I was raised outdoors. I was Huckleberry Finn. I was anything outside, anything. You want to climb a 200-foot pine tree, I'm there. You want to go catch turtles, let's go. You want to go fishing, yeah. And that's why I live in this county. I moved here when I was 25 years old. Lived in Death Valley for 8 years, where you learn about water, or the lack of water. And then I've lived here since 1980. But what I've learned since is that all these struggles and things, these disagreements, these public disagreements, you're not making a movie, okay? I go to a lot of meetings where people get up and it's like they're having an audition or something, some film. Just the passion and the heart is out there, and sometimes anger, sometimes tears. But if you can roll that back and just work on your best arguments are facts, and alternatives, new suggestions, new ways of looking at things, how you can bring in other people. Those will get you farther down the road to what you want. And that's my greatest advice. Sue the bastards. Okay? Well, I've been with groups that did that, and if we didn't have attorneys that worked pro bono, which means for nothing, we wouldn't be anywhere. The Mono Lake case, where the lake was virtually kind of saved, that cost $800,000 in legal fees. Now Los Angeles lost, so they were required to pay them. We've had pro bono lawyers here in the Owens Valley as well. You can't do cookie sales and garage sales and fight realistic battles against a city with 4 million people. They have buildings where there's just floors of attorneys, and they're good. And so you really got to have your stuff together, okay? Litigation, there's kind of 3 things that can happen. It's going to cost you a ton of money. It's going to delay, and you don't know how long it's going to take. And the third thing is, even if you win, the court is going to, somebody else is going to hand you what they think is the right answer. Whereas if you could pull back and work together to try to reach a cooperative agreement or a settlement, you could everybody can probably get much more of what they want. You'll get it faster. You'll actually get to make a predictable future because you created it, right? And the time will be much shorter. So that's kind of my, I'm a father and a grandfather too. That's my father-grandfatherly and old teacher advice to young people. Because if you can get onto that at your age, you will be way ahead of others your age, okay? All right, so I look forward to being with you guys, and we're going to see a lot of good stuff.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, guys. I want the students to take a few minutes and take a look at this map. It's a little hard to see from the back side, but really look at the elevation change. What is the elevation here?
Here, yeah, it is.
That one,
Bishop's not
okay, we're back.
Mono's
76. 7, or, oh, you're right, 6. Yeah, 6, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I saw that.